This week on NBA G League Takeover, the playoffs are officially here. We're breaking down the bracket and making predictions. Plus, the biggest storylines from the playoffs as two teams make history. And later, Jeffrey Keefe from Certified G's joins the show. All that and so much more coming up right now on NBA G League Takeover.
This is NBA G League Takeover, sponsored by Kumho Tire.
Well, the 2025 NBA G League playoffs are officially here for 12 teams. It's go hard or go home. I'm Mike Davis. This time on NBA G League Takeover, we're getting you ready for the start of the playoffs. Let's bring in NBA G League insider Gianna Hearn and 10-year NBA vet CJ Watson. Good to see you guys. So here's how the playoffs work. 12 teams are set to compete. 6 in each conference, with the top 2 seeds in each conference receiving a bye. Now, teams will compete in a single elimination tournament based upon seeding up until the NBA G League Finals, which is a best-of-3 format. Let's take a look at the 4 teams with the bye. So in the East, the Osceola Magic got the top seed, while the Westchester Knicks secure the 2nd seed. Then in the Western Conference, the Stockton Kings grabbed the top seed, and the Austin Spurs snagged that 2nd seed. So Gianna, what stands out to you when you take a look at this playoff bracket?
You know, this is one of the tightest playoff brackets that we've seen in G League history. Between all the teams that are in the playoffs, they're 2 games apart from everybody. If we look at the different records, there are 6 teams that have 20 and 14 records, and there are 4 teams that have 22 and 12 records. Those are the top and the worst records. And so you can see how close they are. So I think it was just that there was no one team that kind of edged out and that stood out. We thought the Maine Celtics from the very beginning, you know, they were undefeated for a long time at the beginning of the season. And even down the stretch, we said, you know, they're probably going to be the 1 seed. Then they end up not being the 1 seed, and you're kind of like, what happened there? But it was just at the end of the regular season, it was a dogfight in that last week. So many things shifted.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how it shaked out those last few games. CJ, it's interesting with a single elimination concept here, because for most of the season, you're trying to keep your body, you know, healthy and strong throughout an entire workload of games. And now you get down to the playoffs, and unlike the NBA, this is just single elimination. So tell us the mentality it really takes for a player to get into the zone knowing that, hey, it's do or die, go hard or go home.
Yeah, just like you said, it's go hard or go home. Every possession matters. Every turnover, every shot selection matters. So you got to take care of the ball. You got to value your possessions and make sure you take good shots. And at the end, you know, try to come out victorious.
It's a good concept. I do like seeing that. So Gianna, you predicted that the Mad Ants and the Vipers were actually going to sneak in to the playoffs. Is there anything surprising when you take a look at this bracket regarding them? Because, you know, you said these are 2 teams that they might be able to sneak in at the very last second.
You know, I said that, but was I that confident? I'm not sure. But when you look at RGV, they lost 4 straight, and then they went on a 5-1 run to win out the end of the regular season and to get into playoffs. So I think that was the most striking thing, was just the push that RGV made. Now, they did have one of the, I think, weakest teams they had to play to round out the season, so I think that helped them to get into the playoffs. But along with the Swarm don't have an actual big-time star name on their team. They just have a group of really great guys. So I think the Swarm, to me, was also a team that I thought, I'm not sure if I would have seen them in playoffs.
Okay, last thing here, CJ, taking a look at that bracket, do you have any predictions you have for us for the NBA G League Finals?
I mean, my sleeper team is my old team, my G League team, Rio Grande Valley Vipers. You know, I think like Gianna said, they're struggling, but then they went on a win streak. So I think they're on a losing streak right now. They lost 1, but hopefully they can, you know, keep it up. But I would pick the Westchester Knicks to win it all. I just think their team is loaded, and they're top to bottom. They've got a great team.
Okay, interesting stuff there. And Gianna, how about you, prediction-wise?
Prediction-wise, I said it from the very beginning. I think the Stockton Kings are going to win it all, but I think it's going to be a big face-off in the East. If we could get Mac McClung with Orlando Magic, and we can get J.D. Davison in the Eastern Conference Finals, that'll be a good one to watch. Okay, I'm going Stars and Maine Celtics, so that's where I'm at. Guys, coming up next, we're breaking down the biggest storylines from the NBA G League playoffs. Don't go anywhere. More NBA G League Takeover after these words.
This is NBA G League Takeover, sponsored by Kumho Tire.
Welcome back to NBA G League Takeover. Let's break down the biggest storylines from the playoffs. So perhaps the most exciting narrative is the one coming from Tempe, Arizona, where the Valley Suns are making history as they are set to compete in the playoffs in their inaugural season. Grabbing the 5th seed in the West with a record of 20-14, the Valley Suns are accomplishing something the Phoenix Suns most likely won't, even with KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal in the fold. So CJ, how remarkable is it for a franchise to make the postseason in their first season of play?
This is really big. It just shows that everybody's bought in, from the front office to the coach to the players. And I'm a big believer in having vets on the team with a mix of young guys too. So I think that's a very big success of their season right now.
Gianna, I mean, this is big time stuff to not even have that culture, that pedigree. You know, you're starting from scratch, and then to make it the postseason in your first season, this is big time stuff.
Yeah, you know, I talked to David Stockton earlier at the beginning of the season. He was really excited to go to a fresh new system because he's been around the G for over a decade, and he brought a lot of that veteran leadership to a very young and exciting, fresh team. I think that's why we saw the chemistry work so well early on. When you get, like CJ said, the right vets around young guys who are just excited and things like that, this is what you get. And then they just have a really great guard and big combo there. So I love what I'm seeing from the Valley Suns.
All the right ingredients. Okay, so from one first to another, the Greensboro Swarm came into existence in 2016, but Tuesday, the first time in franchise history, the Swarm played in the postseason. The 5th-seeded Swarm took on the 4th-seeded Indiana Mad Ants, and unfortunately for the Swarm, they fell 120 to 110. It was actually a blowout. It wasn't so close most of the game, but the Swarm came back in that fourth quarter. Definitely big performances from Quentin Jackson, Johnny Furphy. So the Swarm and the Mad Ants, Gianna, you were telling us a little earlier, they just don't have the same roster as the Mad Ants. The Mad Ants have a guy like Jahlil Okafor, a lot of NBA experience. He didn't even have such a great game, but when you have Furphy, when you have Okafor and Quentin Jackson playing like that, I guess the Swarm just couldn't hang tough with a team like the Mad Ants, right, G?
Yeah, you know, like I said, it was a really solid roster construction for the Swarm, but they didn't have any heavy-hitting stars. Like I mentioned, they had Moussa Diabate earlier on. He was a two-way player, but his contract got converted to a standard deal. So you lose one of your big pieces, and I think that's why I didn't think they were going to go that far in the playoffs. But heck of a run for them.
Yeah, and just, CJ, how about, you know, just being there, right? So many times we've seen, even with the Chicago Bulls and their history, you got to knock on that door a few times before you can actually make deep runs and ultimately win that championship. So do you think for the Greensboro Swarm, not having that experience of being in the playoffs before, is that something that could kind of hold a team back in terms of just knowing what that moment feels like?
Yeah, I think so too, and I think this could help them also, just, you know, getting a little taste of it a little bit, and then also, you know, having that feel for next season and the seasons to come to, you know, do better and be better, you know, and just put on for the franchise.
Okay, yeah, Furphy looked good. Quentin Jackson, major game. He had like 30 points close to in the second quarter, so they were really balling out. Okay, but lastly here, in terms of storylines, let's talk about the hottest team heading into the playoffs, and that really has to be the Westchester Knicks. They won 7 straight games, leading them to a 22-12 record and the second seed in that Eastern Conference, so they have a bye. And the Westchester Knicks are seeking to become the first team to win the Winter Showcase and the G League Finals in the same year. Gianna, that is something we've never seen before. And usually, tell me if I'm wrong, but usually if you're winning the Winter Showcase, that doesn't usually mean that you're going to be set up perfectly in that second half of the season, G.
Well, that's why it's never been done, because it is not like that. Even if you win the Winter Showcase, your team is much different after Winter Showcase most of the time, because people are getting standard deals or two-ways are changing. So most of the time your roster at Winter Showcase is not the same as it is when you're going into the playoffs. So for them to have this opportunity is really unique and exciting. And they have a guy in Moses Brown who knows how to get things done. They got Boo Buie coming down, and one thing I want to point out, when the playoffs happen, usually assignment players from the NBA team and all two-way players are down in the G, because at that point, the parent clubs know we want to get a chip if we can.
Right, and shout out to Northwestern, Boo Buie. But CJ, tell us, this is your team that you're taking as your prediction. Why are you in love with the Westchester Knicks?
Man, they're long, they're athletic, they're physical, they can shoot it, and they're well coached too. So I think that definitely plays a big part into it. So like you said, it's never been done before, but I think they have the team to win it all for the showcase and for the finals too.
Okay, and a fascinating wrinkle here, Gianna. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about this. I believe the Westchester Knicks also had the first pick of the draft in the offseason when we were kicking off NBA G League Takeover. So I'm curious, I mean, maybe we got to get Jeff Key on for this, but I'm curious if that's even ever been done. A team with the first overall pick in the G League draft also wins showcase and now potentially could go for the NBA G League final championship.
That's not something we talked about in our meetings yet, but I do know the historian for the G League, Jeff Key. He would know that answer. We got to reach out to him.
100%. Well, guess what? It's a perfect transition because coming up next, we're learning the keys to the playoffs with that man right there, Jeffrey Key. Gianna talks with the G League Insider next.
This is NBA G League Takeover, sponsored by Kumho Tire.
Welcome back to NBA G League Takeover. The playoffs are finally here, and that means all 12 teams in the field will try to take their game to the next level. And that's why here at NBA G League Takeover, we want to do the same thing and take our game to the next level. That's why we had to get our guy, Jeffrey Key, host of Certified G's, to give us his 3 keys to the G League playoffs. Let's take a listen.
What's up, G League fans? This is Jeffrey Key here, and these are my 3 keys to the 2025 G League playoffs. At number 1 is the presence of a dominant center. Everyone knows that the G League is extremely guard heavy, and guys like Mac McClung, JD Davison, Isaiah Thomas, those guys tend to get a lot of the attention. But this postseason has a ton of fantastic big men who will help decide which team takes the crown. Jahlil Okafor has been a nightly 20-10 machine for the Mad Ants. Moses Brown and Oscar Tshiebwe have both been putting up record rebounding numbers this season. And then there's guys like Reggie Perry on the Swarm, Scalabrine on the Kings, and N'Faly Dante on the Vipers, who have posted nightly double-doubles as well. At number 2, the role players need to be X factors. We saw it last year with Jamias Ramsey in OKC and the year before with Charlie Brown Jr. in Delaware. The teams with the best supporting cast will always advance. For a team like Capital City, that means guys like Eric Stevenson and Taylor Funk might need to drop 20, which they've done on many occasions this season. For Stockton, that's Dexter Dennis, John Elmore, and Isaiah Crawford. And then for RGV, that's Marquise Noel, Teddy Allen, and Jack McVay. Sometimes the stars have an off game, but having those role players step up to the plate will determine who wins the title. And then at number 3 is the health and availability of the players. So typically around playoff time, all the two-way contract guys and the signees get sent down for the playoff run. So I expect almost every two-way player to suit up this postseason. That's guys like KJ Simpson, Marjon Beauchamp, Kevin McCullough, and Enrique Freeman. Not only that, but health could play a big factor as well. Capital City lost Jalen Noel for the rest of the season. TJ Warren hasn't played since early March, and Isaiah Thomas has only played in 4 games this past month. Whichever team checks off these 3 boxes will ultimately win the championship.
All right, you just gotta love Jeffrey Key. I mean, he's like a mad scientist nerd who's like obsessed with complex. Like he's just like, he's got the aura, he's got the look, he's got the drip, but he's also got the brains. You gotta love listening to a guy like this. Okay, so let's break down what we learned from Jeffrey Key. So health and availability, we always know that. Then he's also saying role players need to step up and become X factors. And then of course, the dominance of a big time player, a power forward, a center, something like that. CJ, let's break that down. What do you think about what Jeffrey Key said? What's your take-home message from all of that? What are you aligned with when it comes to
I like all the keys he mentioned. All the points are great points, especially I think that's why I picked the Westchester Knicks, because Moses Brown is such a dominant center. He blocks shots, he can finish at the rim, so I definitely believe that's true. Health and availability, just like you said, is always true. Availability is the best ability, is what one of my coaches always said. So, and then your X factors are definitely your role players. So when a star has an off night, other players have to step up, and I think if that's the case, you have a good chance of winning the game.
Which coach said that?
I can't tell you.
Oh, okay. Now I really want to know. Before I go to the G, let me just ask you this, CJ. And I would assume this to be so, but does playoff basketball just become way more physical? Usually refs are, they're holding on those whistle calls and all that stuff. Is playoff basketball just 100% absolutely much more physical?
Yeah, it's a lot more physical. Like you said, refs are, hold the whistle a little bit more. They let you play a little more. They let you talk trash a little more. So everything is a go in the playoff time because the stakes are different now. So I definitely think the game in half court, the playoff game definitely comes to a half court game. So if you can score in half court and get to the free throw line and score in transition, that can help your team win. Okay,
G, so a lot of great points there, of course. The big man concept, the role players becoming X factors, health and availability. What really stuck out to you from what Jeffrey Key said?
I think the big man factor will be one because we've continuously seen that this season, even if it was Kyler Kelly, and we've seen our big man really do big things at the next level. So I know we're going to see Oscar Tshiebwe. He has to come because he's probably, I shouldn't say probably, he is the best big man in the G League, undoubtedly. We'll see what happens with the vote for everything, but I think that's one of the big things. One thing he didn't mention, I think, is who plays at home. Because in the G League, crowds matter because some G League arenas are really big and they aren't able to pack all the fans in there. And some are really good sizes and they're super loud. And I know CJ talked about RGV. RGV is a great place to play now. They're not getting that at the very beginning, but someone like a Stockton Kings, they have a really good arena, really good following. This is now their fourth time or third straight into the postseason. And I think that might help them get a little nudge. You see the Magic, and I just think that the attendance and the home crowd is going to also play a factor because you talked about the chippiness.
Yeah.
The fans surrounding you, I think, give you a little bit of an edge in the G League because in the NBA, they're huge arenas. In the G League, they're smaller. You can feel that presence of the home crowd.
Okay, all right, I like that. Okay, so home field advantage, home court advantage is certainly going to be a big factor as well. Great stuff there from Jeffrey Key and from you guys as well. Guys, when we return, it's going to be time for our favorite part of the show, G of the Week. Gianna Hearn is going to reveal her pick after the break.
This is NBA G League Takeover, sponsored by Kumho Tire.
My name is Oscar Tshiebwe. This is my second year. Last year was with Indiana Martins. This year I'm with Salt Lake City Stars. Things is going great. I'm still learning the game of basketball. I'm growing, watching a lot of the NBA. In the G League, starting last year, I had to learn a lot. This game in the G League, the game is faster too. It's even a way different pace than the NBA. The G League, they just up and down more like that. So you gotta learn to catch up with that. But the NBA, you just gotta you gotta use your head more. Every time I get a chance to get in there, you gotta pay attention to the dictators and you just gotta be patient, make the right plays all the time. So it's been great. I'm working the most things. I know that the rebound is still one of the things I want to keep taking to the high level. But I'm still trying to understand more basketball, to trying to make good passes, trying to make sure I shoot too. Sometimes when you're open, be able maybe make it 1-3, 2, that could be great too. But then trying to getting better in the dribbling, those things I'm focusing the most. The best advice I got is just they tell me to stay patient and keep waiting for the right time. And during that time, keep working. You never know that time when it will come. To be patient, because I did not have no patience. I wanted things to happen so fast. I came to the point I learned so much that patience is one of the key to success. Just gotta work harder. Our generation, we want things to happen so fast, but we forget that If you are a farmer, when you plant the things, you don't expect to hit the next day. You expect to take your time and keep building. Then one day you're going to smile while you're harvesting. The same way with all of us, the work we put in today, sometimes I put in so much work today. In my mind, I'm trying to expect something tomorrow or the next hours. So sometimes you guys speak to yourself that this might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, but learn just to be calm and keep working harder. That's what I would say.
Wow, so much wisdom from such a young man. I love to hear everything that Oscar Tshiebwe is saying there. Great smile. He's also just great on those boards, Gianna. And, you know, this is a seamless transition for us because we're going to be learning who your honor is, who's getting the honor for G of the Week, I should say, Gianna.
Well, Oscar Tshiebwe had to be him. He had his first NBA start, and he had 7 points and 10 boards. And, you know, we've seen him already shine in the NBA when he's gotten minutes, but this in his first start, getting able to do that, it's been really fun to watch him. He's averaging 17 points, 19 rebounds in the G League. And you heard in that interview, he talked about staying patient. This is only his second season. And oftentimes we want the most out of players in their rookie season, and we're like, what's going on? But he's really learned that key to patience because that interview was done during Winter Showcase, and the jump that we've seen from Showcase to now, I think next season, in his third season, we're going to see Oscar Tshiebwe leave the G League for good.
Yeah, he's not going to be in the G League for long. CJ, I mean, it's hard not to like this guy. From the smile, the wisdom, all the words that are coming out of his mouth, but just the way that he plays the game of basketball. This is a guy, I mean, he has some stat lines where he's got like 27 rebounds. So it's just an exciting thing to watch him play. How high is this guy's ceiling?
I think it's very high. He has the ceiling is high. He continues to get better on the offensive end. You know, defensively, he's going to do what he does. He's physical. He attacks the boards. You know, boards just come to him. And I loved him at UConn, and I love him now. And just like Gianna said, he's going to get better and better. And that third year is going to really be his breakout year, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, Gianna says the Stockton Kings. CJ, you got the Westchester Knicks, right? And I'm going to go with Salt Lake City Stars and my man Oscar Tshiebwe for the NBA G League Finals. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Check into the playoffs. Go to NBAGleague.com to check out all the great action as well as their YouTube page. We'll see you next time.